room. So it might still be better to use English because the other people might feel that, oh, maybe she's talking behind my back, or it might sound unprofessional. So, according to my observation, when my Singaporean friends talk to each other, even though normally they will speak Chinese, but if I'm around, even though I don't join the conversation, they will try to speak English. So no one feel left out. I think it's really a great thing that I learned in Singapore is to respect people, to understand people, and to make sure that no one feel left out. So the Singaporean government try to make sure that there is equality here and that everyone will feel they are included in this diverse environment.
Okay, so like, can you remember back like your time when you like transfer from a student like to a full time work like in a global company, and what is the biggest challenge you saw from that time? Because like the reason sharing from you and Sonia would be like the language, the culture, we can easily to share, but easily to see. But I would like to hear how like what kind of challenge that it would be big when you transfer from a student to a full-time worker, and right now you already like overcome it.
I think the biggest challenge with the first job will be like to get to understand the job, how to do it well, to get to know the job, get to know your colleague, get along well with everyone. So normally, I think the first 3 months will be the most difficult time, but after that, things will gradually get better. So for me, I think the challenge might be the work-related stress. So because at the student, we might have some stress, like some study stress, but as I start working, I have to bear some target. And if I don't meet the target, there will be a lot of pressure. So I have to learn how to deal with the stress.
Okay, so can you tell us more about like how you manage this kind of stresses? Like you spend more time working or try to like balance your work and life? Like how do you like manage?
Yeah, so when I worked at PNG, my boss told me one thing that I think really useful. So learn from the best and learn from the worst. So for example, you have a problem and someone in the world somewhere else might already have that same problem before. So the best thing is to do some research to see all the possible solutions, and then you can
Nó
customize
hết
it to
nổi
yours.
gì.
And then secondly, you need to have
Từ
a
nó mà
buddy,
lên
a
nữa.
coach,
Nó
a
mà hết
mentor
nổi.
inside the company.
Thì
So
bấm hộp
that
vào
person might guide
cái
you, might help you with the
thoát
problem.
để
And
nó
thirdly,
lưu.
I think it's better to
Lát
improve
đến
the critical thinking
lát mà
skill.
tùy vào
So,
trong nhà mà thấy
for
cái này hết nổi.
example, I will try to figure out what is the root cause problem. So, for the reason why
Lát bây giờ
I have this
nó mới hết
problem.
nổi.
So,
Bây giờ
you
bấm vào
know
cái phần
the
chữ này.
framework, like the
Cái
tree
gì
model,
có
and then I
tham
will
thế?
try to
Xong rồi ấn
dig
thoát.
down,
Từ
dig
từ.
down to see the reason, and then figure out
Xong
the
rồi phải ấn lưu.
solutions.
Đúng.
So,
Nó lát
when
nó
I
hết
have a
nổi.
problem, I try not to be stressed because I think it's better to spend time solving the problem than like stressing out. Yeah.
Okay, see. Oh, thanks a lot. I believe that the participant already like taking a lot of like good notes for their like next step, and I think like during our like sharing, two guest speaker also share some tips and advice how to embrace and overcome the challenges. And with this next slide, I would like to hear more from like more of your advices. Like Sonia, can you continue? Like how you like embrace and overcome all the challenges, especially do you see like any different in Indonesia and in Singapore and in other countries as well?
I
How
think
to, yeah.
one of the biggest challenges of working in a country that is not your own, and it's not anyone's fault really, it's the company's work quota. Because like in some companies, there's always a work quota for international hires and for local hires, and that's a massive thing. A lot of times, there are people who are more than capable of doing the job and doing a good job, but just the fact that you're not local, don't get hired. So if that's the case, I think like it's all right. You shouldn't be despondent about it. It happens, and it happens quite often, especially at a lot of multinational companies. So my suggestion is, if you want to work in a different country that is not Vietnam and like a different location, even though it's ideal that you work in a big multinational company, sometimes the easiest foot in the door is working at like a startup. because startups are more lenient when it comes to their hiring, and then they also hire quite a lot of foreign talents. And then after you get like some work experience working in that startup, like just in Singapore, like if you want to work in Singapore and you can't get a job at a multinational company just because of these legal requirements of like they're not hiring foreign workers or whatnot, you try find for a startup. You work for a startup for like a couple months, maybe like 6 months or so, and while you're working at that startup, you can still start applying again for other jobs at bigger companies. So like sometimes, as hard as it sounds, a lot of patience is needed. And
Okay.
then another way that you can start working at a different company if you're not right out of college, let's just say you have like a couple years of experience. The best time actually to areas is if you're at like a sort of senior level. So like if you're looking for like a managerial job, they normally have bigger quotas of international hires for that. And because they have bigger quotas for international hires, a lot easier for you to get a job at an international firm. Another way you can get it, which is the more expensive route, is that you do take you study there. So
Oh,
okay, like I might want to do like I might want to do a final transfer. Like I know some people have done it before. So like their last year of university or like their second year of university, like there's after their sophomore, so junior year, they would transfer out to like a different university. Like if in the States and you decided to work in the States, after you graduate from the university, you get a 1 year work permit. And because of that, you can get a job working in the States. So that is one, I think, of the hardest hurdles, I think, in finding a job in an international in a country that you're not born in.
thanks a lot for sharing. I think like this sharing would be not very common when like a student they learn how to find a job in other countries. And Link, do you see the same problem?
Yes, actually, it's one of the biggest problem now. So a lot of my friends they are losing job and have to go back to Vietnam because their companies cannot extend their work visa. So due to the COVID-19 situation, this year alone, the Singaporean government has raised criteria for a work visa twice. So it's much more difficult to get one now. I think the best way for Vietnamese students from Vietnam to apply for a job in Singapore is to search for a job that requires Vietnamese speaking skill. And normally it will be a tech company. I see a lot of job posting, for example, at Google, Amazon, Facebook, mostly related to sales and marketing. And they will require Vietnamese. So due to that, it will be less competitive because if you apply for a job that doesn't require Vietnamese, you have to compete with people from all over the world, and it might be really difficult. Yeah, and then another, I think, besides sales and marketing, there's another thing you can do is market research or uh, localization. So localization job, for example, at Netflix is when you bring a product to another country. So these are the things that you can consider. But I think it's better to apply for a job which require Vietnamese. Unless you work in IT sector, like if you have some engineering coding skill, then you can go for it. Like any language skill is not important. But if it's
Yeah.
sales and marketing, yeah.
I think there's another way that you can find a job and like outside of Vietnam is that you work at a global company in Vietnam, and then ensure that that global company in Vietnam actually has global legs where it allows you to transfer.
Yes.
So I think that Unilever at least is very good in that regard, where we're open with transferring people, from here to like a different easier for you if you want to find like a different.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially like if the country is a very big market and it's very like it's not that tough for you to transfer to a global job because like they
Yes.
need the local inside, right?
yeah.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. So, for example, at PNG, I think you need to work in Vietnam for at least 2 years. And after 2 years, if you have a good performance, you might be relocated to Singapore. And I think at PNG Vietnam, all marketing jobs are in Singapore actually. So you might consider going for marketing if you want to like relocate to Singapore easier.
Okay, thanks Sonia and Link. A lot. We ought to see like the niche that if the Vietnamese student really want to get the global job later, we should hear more because we have. And right now we move to the second part, the characteristic of a global career. And at this part, I think I would rely a bit more on Sonia. So you can share with us like how you see like the global marketing job
Ý là mới vô là nghe mùi chứ không phải.
The difference and how you see the beauty of textile.
Okay, so I think I can share a little bit from a perspective, or at least like certain FMCG companies' perspective of what the difference of a global marketeer is and a local marketeer is. So I'll start with a global marketeer just because that's my role. A global marketeer's job basically is to drive the brand forward. So that means like if I have a brand, let's just say Dove, if everyone is familiar with the job of a global marketer is to get in charge of the strategy. So like you think top line thinking. So like what is the future strategy of the brand in terms of brand growth? Like how do I want to position the brand in front of the consumers, right? So that means it talks about brand proposition. We will also get in charge into future product innovation. So like any innovations of the product down the line will be the responsibility of the global marketeers to create, right? So strategy in business strategy is the part of the global marketeers. New product innovation is part of the global marketer's job, and then thirdly is communication. So how exactly do we want to portray the brand globally, and what is the communication strategy behind that? That's also the role of the global marketeer. And then I think the last role of the global marketeer is that we serve as like consultants, if you think about it, for the local marketeers in order to do their job well, right? So we basically pull in the markets that we work with globally. For instance, Vietnam is like, hey, I heard Indonesia has recently done a campaign and it results. Can you perhaps share that results with me? It's the job of the global marketeer to basically be that middleman and be like, sure, let me connect you with the Indonesians, and form that relationship between the countries so that they can share knowledge in it. Now, the local marketer's job is more downstream. So if you think about it, if the global marketer's job is more top line, like I think about strategy, I think about new products, and I think like about the 2020 to 2025 like brand growth, or like 10 years down the line brand growth, the local marketer's job is more hands-on. So if you love things that are very hands-on, the local marketer is a very good place to start, because as a local marketer, I'm pretty sure Quang can tell you a lot more about it. You'll be working a lot more tactically. So like for instance, if the global team says the strategy is to grow by 5% this year, the job of the local marketer is like, okay, how can I grow 5% this year? Does it mean like I need to increase distribution of my products? Does it mean I need to pipeline new products? Does it mean that I need to host like certain PR events like that, right? So that's the role of the local marketer, where they will take the strategy given by the global team and they will on the ground basically ensure that we meet those KPIs, right? So I think Quang can help explain a little bit better when it comes to the role of like a local marketeer.
Okay, thanks, Sonia. So, like the core, the key point that I got from your sharing is that the global marketing job would be more top line, right? Focus on like driving new product development and to do like the communication concept in different countries. And coming to the local job would be like more hands-on jobs, right? So, like, is this possible for a local marketeer to work on new product development as well?
Yes, and I think it depends by the company, again, by the company that you work with, right? At least for Unilever, there are certain cases where it makes sense for the local marketeer to actually do the product development, because we might, let's just say, want to create a variant that's specific for that market. Like a good example in Indonesia, I work for toothpaste, so my brand is a toothpaste brand, and in Indonesia, herbals is a big thing. But like there are certain spices that only people in Indonesia tend to use, like beetle juice, like beetle leaf, right? And it doesn't make sense for me to, like, for instance, import that product to other countries that might not necessarily use it. And because it's such a local insight and such a local need, a lot of the local people actually like that and use that in their toothpaste. The global team will only advise, but the local market will develop the product. But in the end, you still get the global team will still have to like give their blessing, but it's a locally run. Yes, there are instances local team will actually create the product, because I think innovation works both ways, right? There's innovation from the top where you collate information from globally, like you're seeing global trends. What exactly are the global trends currently happening? And then you create an innovation based on that global trends. But innovation can also be bottom up, where where you would notice trends that starts locally and on the ground, and only in like certain markets and not in other markets. And when you notice such trends such as these, and you're seeing like other competitors maybe like create new products based on that trend, you don't really want to like not do anything about it. So that's when the local teams will actually grab onto those trends and start creating product innovations out of it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Sonia. So, like, if your country is big and the local insight is very different from other countries, there could be opportunity for local team to develop
Yes,
new product,
exactly.
right? Okay,
Yes.
and Ling, you previously you work in PNG in the local team, and how you see like the local like marketing jobs. Like, can you advise us like what are some key things beside like sharing of Sonia that the local job would be more hands on?
Yes. So I think, for example, at a big company, there might be a lot of research and insights from the international environment. However, sometimes it's not necessarily correct with the local market. So you have to think global, go local. For example, at PNG, when I was working there, I used to work on Pampers. So Pamper was the biggest diaper brand in the world. However, in Vietnam, the share was pretty low. So I had to conduct a lot of research to see why we had that problem, and I figured out that our promotion was not good. So in other countries, mothers usually care about price. So for example, price reduction would be the best promotion. For example, instead of $10, you only have to pay like $7 or $8, and they might save up the extra dollars. However, in Vietnam, mothers they prefer gifts. If the gift with purchase have highest value, for example, if you buy like one pack of diapers, instead of price reduction, you get a very lovely student bag. So the baby can use that bag to go to school, or maybe like some baby clothes. And because of that, so the reason why, because for example, if you go to a store and you purchase that bag, right, it might be like $10. But now you buy the diaper for $10, you get the bag for free. If you get price reduction, it might be only like $2 or $3 off. So the value of the bag is much higher than the value of the price reduction. That's why moms in Vietnam they prefer the gifts. But it doesn't mean that any gift will do. You have to figure out what kind of gift they like. So I really like that Vietnamese mom they love the lovely desire. So for example, if the bag have like the dog or cat face or like some lovely cartoon face, the mom will purchase it more. So we had to work a lot in designing the bag, like how to work with suppliers to get the best price for the bag and give the best value to customer. So this was one of the case, and another case was with the men shampoo. So actually in Vietnam, it's quite good for the men shampoo category to grow because in some other countries, men actually don't purchase shampoo by themselves. They will use the same shampoo with the whole family. So because of that, in Vietnam, Head and Shoulder focus more on the men segment compared to other countries. So these are the insight that you need if you want to do like marketing in a local market. And it's really important if you work in Singapore as well. For example, if you work in Singapore and you take care of the Vietnamese market, companies will require you to have a deep understanding of the Vietnamese market. So, for example, I have friends working in other company, and during the interviewer will ask them like, "Can you tell me about the major trends in the Vietnamese e-commerce market, or can you tell me about the opportunities and challenges of the internet economy in Vietnam?" So yes, it's really you really have to understand your people. Is you have an advantage in this because you are a Vietnamese. It's easier for you to understand the way Vietnamese think, and you have to take note that even though we are on Vietnamese, we come from different regions. We come from like different cities, and each city might have a different spending habit. Or so it's good to really get to know about all of their like general and specific customer habit in Vietnam. I think it's a challenge, but it's also very fun because the more you understand, if you understand someone better, then you also know how to improve yourself. I think EQ is really important in this.
Okay, thanks Ling and Sonia a lot. So I think like to like organize for the participant to like take a note better. So I think like let me summarize. So for example, in FMCG we have like 6 P's like marketing mix of activities. So maybe the local team, the global team will work on the product, work on the pack, and work on like the promotion and recommendation for the price. But like to the local team, they will work on the place. They also work on the actual price that we bring into the store. We also like work in like the proposition. Of course, the proposition will be coming from the global team, but like when we bring to the local team, we might have some adjustment. So like the global team will be more on product promotion in the concept levels and like doing some global access, for example, TVC or like some core online video. And to the local team, they work on the actual price and promotion in store, and maybe working on the place as well. Is it correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I think that it could be like a bit easier for the students to take note. And the next would be like how we see the requirements and responsibility of like a global marketeer. Like when we are like as an executive and we move to the manager level. I think this slide I would like leave to Sonia so that you can share with the participants today.
Yeah. So just so that I understand better, most of the participants here are still students, right?
Yes.
So have not graduated from school and you're looking for a job.
Yes.
Their first. Okay, clear. And I think I was just looking through the chat as it was going on, and then someone asked about um, TOEFL scores or IELTS scores, which is better. To be honest, those scores are good to have, but I think the most important thing is your ability to communicate in English during the interview process or the language of whatever choice of company that you decide to work in. If you decide to work in a Chinese firm, then being able to communicate in Chinese would be great. So going back to this, I digress. Going back to the requirements and responsibilities. So you want to understand what is the difference between an entry level job and then getting promoted to a manager. Is that the question?
Yes.
So I think let's start with the entry level job. For the entry level job, I'm not gonna lie, the job market and looking for your first job is not the easiest process. In fact, it can be very frustrating for a lot of people and it requires time. I had a hard time as well when I was looking for my first job, especially when it's a job in a foreign country where I'm not a citizen of. So you would notice when you're applying for your first job, a lot of job descriptions would say things like, I want 3 to 5 years experience or like 2 to 5 years experience, and you're like, I'm just looking for a first job. Like, I don't have a lot of experiences here. So how can I get my foot in the door? So there is obviously the normal route, like you apply using a resume, you apply to multiple firms. But then another way that I found much more helpful, at least for me, I would go through LinkedIn, and then I would go to it, for instance, a job that I'm interested in, and I would find people in that company in LinkedIn and either get in touch with them, message them, and I'll be like, "Hi, I'm a student from this university. Um, I'm graduating soon, and I'm interested in understanding a little bit more about your position. Are you free to talk to me for like maybe 10 to 15 minutes of your time, just so I can learn a little bit more on what it's like working at this company or in your position?" You will get some rejections, but you would realize that a lot of times people are more than willing to talk to you on the phone for like 10 to 15 minutes, especially if those people are like part of your alumni group, right? So that's a very good way to get your foot in the door. And then from that, if you're lucky, sometimes you can get referrals. And because you get referrals, it's easier for you to, well, easier, I suppose, for you to get noticed by the HR firms to apply for the job. Now, what skills do you need as a fresh graduate? to basically apply for a global job. I think first and foremost, if you're finding a job in marketing, the ability to communicate is obviously key. So they would look at that. How good are you in terms of delivering your thoughts? Number two, they would look at critical thinking skills. How good are you able to solve problems? Because there are times when they will ask you like scenario problems, right? Like for instance, let's just say that this happen if you face a problem of this sort, how would you go about it, right? How would you see? Now when you run into such questions, you shouldn't get so worried, because the thing is like they're not looking for right or wrong answers. She's looking at how you would solve this problem. Like would you just be like stammer, or would you think of a solution? That's what you're looking for, right? And then thirdly, I think what's important these days is that um sorry, I lost my train of thought. The third thing that's important when you're looking for an entry level job is your ability to adapt. So they look at a lot of your ability to adapt, because when you're working in your first job, a lot of times your expectations might not be what the reality is. So they look at people who is able to adapt quite fast. And I think if you're and then obviously I think another one that they look for is the the ability to learn. So how well are you in picking things up? How fast are you in picking things up or in learning things? And how open are you to feedback or criticism? I think it's something that they look for as well when it comes to an entry level job. At least these are the soft skills, right? And then in terms of the hard skills, those are things that are always good to have. Like if you have a good GPA, it's always good to flaunt it. If you have like any kind of like previous internship experiences, it's always good to talk about it, because at least like that shows that you have worked before. But I think when it comes to your first job, the most important things are those four. So communication, critical thinking abilities, adaptability, and then the last one is the ability to basically learn on the job and fast.
Okay. So you also like have like how to to transform from like an executive or the first level to the manager level.
Okay, so that one is slightly trickier, because from a when you're an executive level, if you make mistakes, it tends to you tend to not hold as much responsibility, because your manager will cover for you. Now, when you want to become a manager, what's super important is obviously you need to be well versed and very proficient in the job that you're doing. You need to know how to take accountability of your actions. That's super important. When you become a manager as well, it's also very important to be able to delegate jobs or be able to work with multiple cross-functional teams, right? So that also becomes a little bit trickier, like project management wise. And I think the third thing when you become a manager is that these soft interpersonal skills between like these different teams is something you need to take more into consideration, as well as strategic thinking skills, because once you become a manager, you're basically driving the business. You're no longer like necessarily reporting as much to someone. It's like if I make a mistake, I have to own up to this mistake. While if you are a executive, there is someone that you can sort of ask for advice, like, hey, I don't understand something, can you explain to me? When you're a manager, it's a lot harder. It'll be weird if you ask for advice. Obviously you can ask someone of a higher level, but you're already expected to perform at a certain level in order to be a manager, right?
Okay, thanks a lot, Sonia. So I think like the time is like not much, so we have to move to the next part, the third part, like the marketing process from global to a local team. So I just realized we have a lot of questions in the box that if Sonia didn't mention before that I would not pay attention to. So I think we will reserve the time like at the end of the event to answer these questions. Ling, I see some questions for you as well. So can you help me to prepare with some like answers, and when we move to the last part of Q&A. And right now we jump.
Yes.
Yeah, we jump into of course, many students today, they are very curious of like the marketing process from a global team to a local team. So I think on the slide right now, it's just like some basic summaries of like the marketing process. in global team to a local team. Maybe I move to the next slide. It would be like much more clearer. So I think like Sonia, can you share the global part, and later on I will share the local part, like how the global team work, and later on they transfer their work into the local team. You are on mute.
I'm a bit worried if people can hear me because
Very clearly. Because very clearly, I don't
I
think
think some people might be having problems. I'll try to speak slower.
Yeah, I just realized that we speak too fast.
I
Because
will speak slower.
I just
Okay.
realized, yeah, three of us all like speak very fast, so we would need to slow down our speed as well.
Yeah, I think we've touched on this earlier. What is the role of a global marketeer and what is the role of a local marketeer? I think just so that it's easy for everyone to understand, the role of the global marketeer is, if you think about the sales funnel, we're at the top. So we're in charge of, as is mentioned here in that little heart, we're in charge of everything that's a little bit further from the consumer. So the strategy, the creation of new product, the brand vision and mission, and also the global communications framework is what we're in charge of. So everything that's top of the funnel, right? And then, as Quan mentioned, the local brand team is in charge of the lower of the funnel one. So what actually converts the strategy into sales, right? So this means like making pricing is correct, making sure that I'm having the right promotions in store, making sure that the placement of my products is well distributed. So everything that's more hands on the ground, that's the job of a local marketeer.
Okay, so like of course, like global team would have like the very clear guideline to the local team. Can you share a little bit about this?
The what? Sorry.
Like of course, like the global team, you work in the global products that would be like deployed in different countries, and you also like have some CDP that would be air in different countries that global team working on, and you after that you transfer to the local team, right? So can you share a little bit like more specifically how the global team work on communication and product development, and then how can you guys transfer to the local team?
Sure. Okay. So I'll just give you an example what we did recently when it comes to how we create products basically on a global level. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a very long talk if I go into details. I'm just going to go through the steps in a more general way. So before we create like a new communication or a new global communication or a new product, we would always do some social listening, or go to our consumer insights team to ask for what are the current global trends that are happening in the environment, right? So in the world. And an example right now in Vietnam, let's just say naturals is a big thing. Like everyone is so into naturals these days, right? Like my product needs to have naturals. Now, if I realize that in my portfolio naturals is not a big thing, and then in Vietnam it's a big thing, and let's say in Indonesia it's starting to be a big thing, and in India it's starting to get a big thing. And how do I know about this? Is because I talk to my consumer marketing team and I talk to my local consumers. I know that, okay, naturals is a big thing. Because I know that naturals is a big thing, I'm like, let me create a product that's natural based. And that's how it starts, right? So everything starts with a customer insight first. And once we get that customer insight, then we would take the customer insight and develop it into a product. After we develop to a product, we know that this product is tailoring people who are natural seekers, let's just say. And because they're natural seekers, that means I need to communicate in my communications also something about naturals. So I would create basically a product that talks about naturals. Now, when it comes to the product framework and the communications framework, there's two different kinds of frameworks, but in general, it's like that. So you start with a consumer insight. After you start with a consumer insight, you would create a product or a communications based on that consumer insight. And then thirdly is that you would look at which are the markets that will potentially land these products, right? So let's just say this natural thing is big in India, it's big in Vietnam, it's big in Indonesia, it's big in... Now, those are 4 different markets, but I only have a budget of like X amount. Obviously, I can't create a communications for all 5 markets about it. So the role of a global marketeer is basically to think about how can I create a communication or a product that can I can sell to these five markets, right? And then we would do things different ways, right? And a lot of times we would get involved with the local customer insights team to make sure that the product or the communications that we're tailoring is is relatable to that market. And we also talk to our local marketing team that it's relatable to them too. So I hope that answers the question. And I hope I'm speaking slowly enough.
I think it
You
is
understand me?
already slow. So I think
Yeah.
to adding up to the sharing of Miss Sonia, so I think I would bring on the screen right now a case that many Vietnamese students already saw before in the supermarket. So I think they would be like a little bit more specific for them and easier to understand. And I think in Vietnam right now, like the Pantene Every Choice Misela product is very popular, and especially to the young millennials. And the case of the Pantene is a global brand, one of the biggest global hair brands. But actually, Pantene is facing with a lot of challenges. The number one is it look a little bit like my mom brand. It's quite old and it's not like fresh or young enough to connect with the millennial and especially Generation Z. So second challenge is like the trend of this category. Like previously, Miss Sonia also shared that the trend of it in Vietnam right now is that people love natural and people are willing to pay more for a better product. And globally, this will be a trend as well. People are willing to pay more. However, Pantene and right now they don't have like a lot of like the premium products and they need to stepping up in premium. And another challenge is like how we both like premiumizing the product and connecting with the young millennials and Generation Z. And the global team of the PNG are very smart to work on the new concept of Penti Misela. And I think we are all like, especially the female participant. Maybe you are very familiar with the Misela concept in like the cleansing like cosmetic products. So help you to cleanse all the makeup very like quick and very effective. Still like make your skin very moisture. And they bring this concept into shampoo because cosmetics is perceived the most premium category in the beauty and personal care. And the global team are very smart to premiumize the hair category by bringing the concept from cosmetic into the shampoo products, and they creating like the new Pantene innovation of micellar range that have to still make your hair beautiful, and together with like cleansing all the oil on your scarf so that you can like still have a very the good scarf. And they bring this concept into like different countries. For example, on the screen we can see they launch in Thailand, they launch in Malaysia, in Japan, in Vietnam. We have a lot of like similarity in packaging. You can see like all the four countries the packaging is quite similar, but like the exact would be different. For example, like the variants in Thailand would be pink, would be different from Vietnam and Japan. Like the global the advertising talent would be different in different countries as well. So you will see like the global team would have to work on like the big concept that be that is able to like bring into different countries. But when it's come to like execution and deployment in each country, the local team have the rise to like customize the launch, customize like the deployment. For example, like what kind of variants they would launch, the talent, advertising talent they would use, what kind of in-store activities they would be into different countries, and the global team would not like interrupt much into this kind of execution. So I think like this example, this case will bring like it's a clear picture and more specific picture for the all the participants to understand like how the global team they work in different countries and how they build transfer from a global brand into the local success. And that says we move to the third part of like how to local talent grasp a global job. I think this part will rely more on Miss Ling, and because like most most of the participants today, they are all Vietnamese, and they are very curious how to have a Vietnamese students to get a global job. Miss Link, can you share with us? On the screen, we have like some standard process, but I think it would be very diverse in different countries, different company. And Link, can you share how you get a job in Japan, and later on how do you move from a job in Vietnam to Singapore, because you are not moving from PNG Vietnam to PNG Global. You moving to different companies in Singapore. Can you share with us?
Yeah, so I think with this one, I might also answer the question from Zhangmi, and thank you for the questions because they are quite related to each other, like how I build up my skill to change my career and how to grab a job. So I think your skill set is important, and but the background, more than background, I think the attitude is more important. As Sonia has shared, uh, the company will look for people who can adapt. So a can-do attitude is really important. And in terms of skill set, I think there are three important skills. The first is job-related skill like critical thinking or problem solving. Because no matter what you do, you are at the company because they want you to solve the problems. And secondly is the communication and teamwork skill. For example, you need to learn the language, you need to know how to get along with your colleague, clear communication, things like that. And thirdly, for my jobs, I think they have one thing in common, that is a deep understanding the local knowledge about Vietnam. So no matter where I work, they will need to borrow my brain to understand more about the Vietnamese market. Yes. So okay. So I started. I think it's good. It's important to build up more skills when you are still a student. So when I was a student, I started with participating in some competitions with Minh Quang here. So I start with the marketing spirit competition. I think it's important to believe that you can do it. At first, I didn't think that I could win. I thought like, oh no no, I'm like don't think I can win, right? But he really thanks to him, I had enough bravery to step up and participate. And in the end, we were the champion. So thanks to that, I got more courage from that. And then we got another win from the Nielsen case competition. And I think one internship that really changed my life is internship at P&G, because for 3 months I was given a real case to solve a real business case study, and they lent me the resources needed, like develop a lot of skill. After that, I had another internship in Japan, and eventually I came to Singapore. So I think it's really important for you guys to build up your experience during college. So it might be like some extracurricular activity. For example, uh, at, at school there might be a lot of clubs, or you might take some internship. And it's really important to customize your resume to fit with the job criteria. That's about building up your skill. And secondly, to choose the right job. So as I have shared with you, it's really important to see if you can get what the company is looking for. So you have to read the job description carefully. So for me, I will prioritize jobs which require Vietnamese, as I have shared with you. And then after that, you have to tailor your resume and your interview answers. So I think most of you have known the most famous framework will be the STAR model. So you prepare your interview answers carefully before the interview. And I think one additional point in Singapore is that people here kind of love referral. It means you might ask someone who's working in a company to refer you for that job. So it's still fair. It doesn't mean that you might get a higher chance to get selected, but you might get a faster response. For example, if you just apply through the website, sometimes the recruiter doesn't even come back to you; they just ignore you. But with a referral, they will at least come back to you like, "Hey, sorry, we cannot proceed." So with the referral, sometimes they even help you in your interview process, and you might get to know about the company better. So for my current company, actually, I one of my friends referred me to my current company, and most of my friends around me, they also got a referral when they interviewed with their current company. yeah, I think that is something might be useful. You can also ask about the company culture, the working environment, their style from the people that refer to you.
Okay, thanks, Miss Ling, a lot. And during your sharing, I would like note one point is like getting referral is very critical. And to a student in Vietnam, if they don't have the network with the global marketeer, it's very challenging to get referral. And I think during this sharing today, we like all the participants would know like the two global marketers, and maybe after this event, your LinkedIn inbox will be full of messages and adding friends from the participant. I hope that you will get patient with that. Okay, so thanks, Miss Ling, a lot for your sharing. And I think like one of the very last slide today before we coming into the Q&A part is like the global company, what they require from a fresh graduate, and especially like the local graduate people, not mentioning to like the local language. What are the kind of criteria that we previously not mentioned about? Sonia, can you share with us first?
I think it's interesting to have a hobby outside of your line of work. So when you're a marketeer, I think the beauty of being a marketer, you don't have to be a marketing student in order to marketeer. In fact, a lot of the people working at Unilever, let's just say, who are in marketing careers, they don't necessarily start off as a marketing student. I was a journalist before I became a marketing student. I did not have a business background, but I know how to write well. And my boss was in economics. Another one was in philosophy. So specific job scope, that becomes a point of differentiation for you. So for me, I have an interest in graphic design. I like to draw as well. So, and I also had some experience in UX design. And I was obviously a journalist, so I know how to like create video content, and I know how production works. And when I interviewed for the job at Unilever, besides my marketing credentials, I mentioned these other things that I do, that are beyond marketing. I'm like, I use my experiences, and like, because I know production, because I know graphic design, I'm able. You will get these other benefits from me, because I know when you're working with a global marketeer, you would have to work with multiple stakeholders, right? Because we create campaigns. I would have to work with people in advertising, and being able to speak their lingo or like their business jargon definitely helps, right? And also gives you basically insight into things that people might not see just because of specific interest, and you can contribute a lot more that way. So like, I think that's an important thing to have when you're applying for a global marketer job. You need to think, what exactly am I good at or am I passionate about that can allow me to stand out from the crowd? Because you'll be competing with quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Another thing that helps you stand out, besides including your passions or your hobbies, is, as I mentioned before, getting your foot in the door with someone already in the company. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to know someone in the company, but you can find them on LinkedIn. That's why technology is so wonderful, right? And you can reach out to them. And as long as you get a phone call or like a message with them, some people will help. They will, and they're more than happy to help. And I think, for me at least, what I learned the most in my career is that I am where I am today, not solely because of my own personal accomplishments, but because of the trust that people I met along the way. They trusted in me, and then they referred to that job. Okay. And then number 3, opportunities for graduate students without experience. Now, if you want to work for a global company, it's quite hard to enter into a global company if you do not have work experience, or if you don't have any like internship experience before, because again, the pool that you're competing with is a lot larger. But if you don't have an experience now, you don't have to be worried, because there are other ways you can enter into a global company even if you don't have experience, because global companies will a lot of times go into campus recruitment programs, and they also have like sometimes a lot of competitions, like working with school. Unilever, I know, has their own
Petition.
competition as well. So you partake in those competitions and do good, And a lot of times when you partake in the competitions and you show these marketeers in the competition or HR in the competition, your skills, you get that foot in the door already. So you can get their contact number already by then. You can connect with them on LinkedIn, and those are small wins that you can get into finding your foot in the door on entering into a global company. Now, if you've done all of this, let's say, and you still for some reason did not get the job offer at that global company, your first try, it's okay. Don't give up, because it's quite normal sometimes when you're fresh out of college to not work at a global company. Some people do work at a company, but most they start small first. And a very good way for you to enter into a global company is, again, like back to those 4 skills, right? Communications, the ability for you to adapt, the ability of critical thinking skills, and the ability for you to learn. So for me, and I think it's different for different people, but the best advice I can give to people is that you work for a startup. And why startup is because when you work for a startup, you basically have to hone these 4 skills. I got into Unilever because my previous company that I worked with in New York was a startup. And because it was a startup, I was able to create a lot of stories from that startup and use it as examples on how I can carry those skills over to work in a big company. I'll tell them stories on how I was able to adapt, how I was able to wear multiple hats, how I was able, to learn on the job. And these are the things that global companies do value. So if you can't get into a global company your first time around, it's okay. Like, you think of it as a stepping stone. Like, I start small and then I work my way towards where I want to be. Yeah. So that's
Okay. Yeah.
my advice.
Thanks, Sonia, for like sharing. I believe that the sharing the university will not teach the students.
Yeah.
Yeah, the university wants, and especially like to find your hobbies and passion and transfer it into the career. Because like in Vietnam, the previous education is just focusing on like learning a theory, advise students to be good at mathematics, like chemistry, physics, or some like very theory like subjects that will not like inspire the student to believe on take on their hobbies. But right now, the education is changing in Vietnam, and I believe that many nice participants today they already like finding their hobbies and nurturing their hobby, and later on transferring into their uniqueness when they apply for the job. I think the sharing would be like would inspire the student a lot. For other thing is, for example, like they should take part in like some competition. It would be a gate to bring the student into the company, because previously the Unilever competition also bring me to the Unilever mastery programs, and this year the competition will reopen, and I heard
Yes.
from the HR team that the local challenge in Vietnam will be relating to close up. And
Very nice.
if it's true, I hope that to invite you to join another event with us to sharing.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's important. And I tell this to a lot of my cousins and a lot of my friends that are currently still in school and looking for jobs. When you're in school, the best, like when you take an internship, sometimes the best way for you to make the best use of your time is you don't take an internship that is in the role that you major in. Because I think because when you're in school, you have the freedom to explore. So if you're still like a sophomore or a junior, it's good to take an internship in your area of interest, because the thing is sometimes we apply to a major not necessarily because it's something that we're passionate about, but because it's something that it's safe.
Yes. Okay.
And then the thing is, once you start working, that becomes your life. You see? And a lot of times what I notice is there's some students who think that they want to be marketeers, but then when they start working in a marketer's job, they're not happy. I'm like, why are you not happy? They were like, I thought I like it, but like after I work in this job, I don't think I like it anymore. So it's very important, I think, that when you are still in school, you take a job or you take an internship outside of your actual major. It's still wise to have like maybe like an internship in your actual major, but also spend the time to take an internship outside of your actual major. And that can also be a point of differentiator when you apply for a job in the future.
Okay, so I think the sharing of Estonia is very perfect. That we will go to the ending part, and right now we have a lot of questions. And before we jump into the last part, there will be a 2 minutes of ending part. And in this time, I hope that Miss Sonia and Miss Ling can help me to screen some questions or something into the box. And we have 2 minutes for advertising. And as many students already know, like when we launched the X4 Marketers ebook with like 345 like marketing keywords for the student, they need to know to apply for like the global company. And we are already mentioned that in October, Tomorrow Marketer Academy would have the new products like it is the English training products for like the student to be more confident to practice their skill to learn the vocabulary when they work as a marketeer, to have like better listening and speaking skill to be ready for the application process when they want to join the global team and be more confident when they when you handle a new job. And today I will share with you this official the official new product of Tomorrow Marketer Academy will be ready in October in Ho Chi Minh City and November in Hanoi as well. And the trainers will have like the two guest speakers today join as a trainer as well. And on the screen we have like other trainers. They are all the manager and director level in global company. They are all Vietnamese and native English speaking in country as well. And they are like also have like the global qualification in master program, and right now they're working in a lot of like countries all around the world, and they will join with us like in this course. And I hope that the participants today, if you are not really confident about your language skill, you can join with us in October in Ho Chi Minh and November in Hanoi in this course. So the advertising part is over. Right now, we're moving to the very last part of the Q&A. We have a lot of questions. I don't believe that we have sufficient time because it's already like running out of time. So how to pick the question is to be very challenging.
I think we're 15 minutes. We can answer short and sweetly.
Okay.
I think we can still, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot for like your time, because like previously I communicated with the guest speaker that we just only have 75 minutes. They are willing to join with us more. Yeah, thanks a lot. I the very first question, and which language certificates is the most suitable for global working environment, IELTS or TOEIC? As far as I'm concerned, TOEIC is more suitable for working environment. So a good score at TOEIC would be accepted at global working environment like Singapore or Japan. Miss Ling and Sonia, how do you see?
I'm probably not the best person to answer this question, but from my experience, TOEIC, or because I took TOEFL as well when I applied for university, but when you're looking for a job, they don't necessarily require it or see it unless it's specified. So a good way that you can just show your language capabilities is that you can always put your proficiency score, like your TOEIC score, as part of your resume, but they don't normally ask. Because the thing is, once you go into an interview, they can probably gauge how well you can communicate from there. So they don't really look at the score.
Okay,
So,
thanks a lot. Miss Ling, do you see the challenge when you apply?
Yes, I think they don't care about their score because they will check your language skill during the interview and the assignment. So they can know for sure. They don't really require any TOEIC or IELTS. But for me, I took the IELTS. Yeah, because I planned to study overseas at that time. So, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't do it. But I took the IELTS.
Okay, so thanks for your sharing. One of the two guest speakers both share that we don't have like the big challenge on the specific score on TOEFL or TOEIC or IELTS, but you see like three of us are very like confident when communicating using English, especially we are not like native English speaker. And one more fact is like three of us know more than English. Three of us know like Chinese, and even Sonia have SSK5 equal to like the Chinese certification equal to like the IELTS like a 7.5, and Miss Ling even know Chinese and Japanese as well. So like the global trend right now is you need not. I just see in Vietnam like many students right now they are very good at English, but if you see in other countries like Indonesia or Malaysia, they even know more than English. They know like Mandarin or even other languages as well. So I think when you are student, I wish that I going back to the student time and I learn one more language.
Yeah, so on this language thing, I think it's always nice to be speak multiple languages and more than one or two. But again, the benefits at working at a global company is that it will definitely give you a massive edge if you're able to speak multiple languages. But as long as you can speak English, English well, it's gonna be all right.
Okay.
Get your foot in the door a lot easier if you can speak multiple languages, and you don't have to be super proficient. Again, it depends on where you want to work. I work in Singapore because I know the main language of communication that they use here is English. But I might have problems still working in Beijing or Shanghai if I have to write in Chinese. Because like I can listen, I can speak, but not necessarily write as well. So it's a toss up.
Okay, thanks. So the next question will be for Miss Ling. So how can you transform from like the business administration major to the marketing and business operation and research? Will the university diploma impact your career?
Yes, so I think I have shared a little bit about this before. So the diploma doesn't really matter. What really matters is the skill set and your attitude. So if you believe that you can do it and you can adapt well with the new environment, if you can pick up new skill pretty fast, then you can do whatever you want. So as for me, I think even though I work in different roles, uh, these things might be the same. For example, the skill set like critical thinking skill, problem solving skill, and secondly, communication skill, like language and how to work well with page. And thirdly, like keep trying to understand more about markets to get more insights about the job that I'm working on. Yes. So and to be able to do that, you need to build up experiences through like internship, competition, or even your own project. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Miss Ling. The next question for you as well, and the insight that you share when you work in like the Pampers and Head and Shoulder Men, like the insight that you got is from your own discovery or like the agency or other team have you?
Yes, so this one I did by myself with my internal team. So I didn't use an agency for this. So first of all, I tried to form a hypothesis. I look at the promotional tracking. So we have a post mill. Post mill, it means it will list down on the promotion from PNG and from all of our competitors. So then I use some benchmark with our sales and with competitors. So for example, I can see that for the promotion, when we gave out the gift with purchase, our sales increased compared to the price reduction. And then when I look at competitors, I can see that the market leader, they tend to give more gift with purchase compared to price reduction. So I formed the hypothesis that gift with purchase might work better. And after that, I confirmed it with my team. So at that time, I had sales team of around 200 people, and we usually have meeting. These people are very experienced. They have worked with PNG for around 20 years. They are much older than me, and they also agree with me that they believe it might be the case. But before that, no one cared because they think this brand is so small. Why should we spend time doing promotion for this one? Because you will take a lot of time for you to find the right gift and to produce it. But I believe small is big. If you can increase the small thing, eventually it will build up. And thirdly, I asked my BA team. BA is the brand ambassador. So for example, if you go to a supermarket, there are people who will introduce the product to you, who will help you with information about the product. They are the one who had the client face-to-face experience. So I asked them to help me do questionnaire and in-depth interview with the customer. So after collecting all the questionnaire and interview answers, we came up with the conclusion that give it purchase might work better. So I had to persuade my boss to allow me to do a trial for this. We had one round of tests for this one. It was a huge success, and after that, I was able to share it with like people from all the PNG, and then we had the annual gift with purchase program. Yeah, so that was how we did it. internal team.
Yeah, thanks Ling, for sharing the case. It's very specific and practical, and I believe that the participant already get a taste of it. We need to run because we just only have 5 minutes. And the next question is quite general. And Miss Sonia, how many ways to become a brand manager?
I think there's multiple ways you can become a brand manager. As I mentioned again, it's not like a formula. It's not a formula, and a lot of times it's also based on whether or not you're a good cultural fit for the company, whether or not you have the skill sets for the company, and whether or not culture fit is actually a big thing. Sometimes like you might qualify in terms of like academia, in terms of like your resume, but when you talk with that person, you realize that maybe you're not a good culture fit and you might lose a job. So there's no like formula on how to be a brand manager. Again, when you're interviewing for a job, it's all about selling yourself and how can you sell yourself in the best light possible, right? So that's where you bring in like passions, things that you can bring into the job that other people might not be able to bring. And then showing again, like I think those four important things. All right, which is like I'm not gonna repeat myself so we can have more time for other questions so we can answer.
Okay, the next question for you as well. And do you take like the online or short courses, and how it adding value to your job application?
I think it's always a good, and I think always a good thing if you want to learn new skills. In fact, when I was looking for a job as well, I took a UX course, and I used that when I interviewed and saying like, hey, I was interested in UX, and now I have the certification, and I know it's not part of my job, but it's definitely something that I can bring to the team. So I think it's always good for you to take those certifications. I think the important certifications for marketers to know these days are if you know Facebook. I think the Google Analytics is pretty good. Facebook Analytics is also quite good if you know about it. It's always good if you know Tableau, the ability to use Tableau in order to collate data. Obviously, like you don't have to do it, but sometimes you would look at these reports. So it's always it's always a good skill to have. As I'm saying, right? Like if you take these courses, these can become your differentiators when you interview for jobs. You can say like, hey, I'm certified in this and this and this, and these are the skills that I can bring to the job. Your job might not need it directly, but because you have these skills in mind already, you can provide additional input, as a team player.
Okay, so thanks for sharing. And you mentioned about like the digital platform understanding and data analytics skill, right? And all these adding a course you need right now. Tomorrow marketers already have, and if you are looking for a course, you can search on our website as well. The next question for Miss Ling, because you have a very high GPA, about 3.6, right? And
No, 3.74.
3.74, very high. So, do you see that is it beneficial to have the high GPA comparing with the one who has not very high? When we
I
are like,
think yeah. So if we have to choose between having a high PA and no experience at all, and having an average GPA with a good experience, then I would go for the average GPA and the good experience. So actually, in PNG, we were not required to we were not required to get a university degree for this. Like I have a colleague who has been working for the company for 10 years, and he actually forgot to get his degree because he joined the company through internship, and like eventually he forgot that he hasn't graduated yet. There was one course that he didn't pass, and he forgot. But if you want to work in Singapore, then it's very important. And I had another question from Yi about the university reputation. So actually, unfortunately, our university in Vietnam don't have very good ranking, and it might impact our assessment when we try to apply for work visa here. So the work visa system in Singapore is that you input your educational level, your experience, something like that. So coming from Vietnam, this might be disadvantageous when we apply for a visa. So yeah, having a degree, overseas degree, might be quite beneficial. Yeah. And then
okay,
I might also answer the internship questions as well.
yep.
I think big company like Amazon, Google, Facebook, always look for interns, but it's not easy. If it easier, it might be some startup company. The startup company, you might just go on LinkedIn and search for any job with the keywords that you choose. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Miss Ling. We have a lot of questions, but I believe the time won't allow us. So I think my recommendation is I would leave the question to our guest speaker, and maybe after the event, if you have time, help me to reply so that I can post on the Facebook group, so that all the participants can like know the answer for other question. Right now, we cannot like continue such a longer time with the event. And I think to finish the event today, I would like the guest speaker to prepare one advice, one very last advice for the student in the event today, for them to like transforming from us like the senior student into the first jobber, especially if you want to pursue a global job. And what is your like the very key advice and the time for you to prepare? And I think like to me like the host today, I would have like very short advice for the participant. I really encourage all the participants to at least one time in your life to work in a global company or in different countries, because the experience will widen your perspective to see the world with a more open-minded eyes, like to equip yourself with the global mindsets, global skills, so that it would help you to do your work better, live a better life, and especially to widen your world. And in Vietnam, we have like a sentence to advise the people to moving up from the well, to see the sky, to see everything new, to widen like their view. It would adding up a lot of value to help you to like develop your career. That's my advice. Sometimes you are not confident enough. Sometimes you don't see the opportunity. If you really keen on to like applying for a global job, it would adding a lot of values to for your life later on. That's my advice. And right now, I think I leave the mic for Miss Ling and Miss Sonia.
I think Ling, you can go first.
Yeah, so I think if I it's quite difficult to choose only one advice. I think it will be like never give up and believe that you can do it. So it might sound cliche, but it's true, because there are times in my life when I feel that I'm a loser, I'm a failure. But then I realize that even if I fail, at least I learned something. So for example, when you might like face failure after you graduate, but keep believing in yourself and know that you learned something. For example, you apply for a company and you failed, but at least you got some new knowledge, right? You got some new knowledge, skills. You got to speak to the people from that company. You definitely learned something, and believe that you are gradually like improved yourself. There's a Japanese word for that called kaizen. It's mean like always improving, and it's a motto that I believe in.
Oh, thanks, Ling, a lot. Sonia, how about your advice?
I think this advice is something that I give myself up to this day, which you just need 10 seconds of courage. And what I mean by this is when you're looking for a job, it's really, I think networking is very important. And because networking is very important, you need to reach out first a lot of times, right? So my biggest advice is you make use of your alumni network, because you never know like who in your alumni network are working in global companies, right? If there and then people in your alumni network are more prone to helping you or answering you out just because you already have something in common. So what I would do is I would reach out to my alumni network who work in companies that I wish to work for, and then I'll just ask them, can I, hey, I'm a senior student in X university. I realize that you're working at this company and it's one of my dream companies. I'm graduating soon. Your role as a brand manager is something that I want to be in the future. Can you spare me 10 to 15 minutes of your time on a call, right? And that is your first foot in the door. You might not get the job at a company. You might not get a referral, but at least I guarantee you 8 out of 10 times that person will help you in one way or the other, which is like to provide you more information about the company, which means like you have the ammo you need during interviews to be like, I know the company culture, I know what you're looking for, and that's already good, right? And then you will get further ammo if they're like, actually send me your email, give me your resume. And sometimes even if they don't ask you for your resume, you can always ask, thank you so much for your time. Is it okay if I send you my resume and you comment on it? sometimes they would reply to. So just do it. Like there is no harm in doing it. The biggest thing that will ever happen to you if you do it is that they might just not respond, which is okay, right? But the big benefit out of it is that if they actually do respond, you get a lot out of it. So reach out to your alumni network, guys.
Okay, thanks, Miss Sonia and Miss Ling. A lot like the very last sharing is like be brave and just go on that, right? Okay, so I
Hustle.
yeah, I think today I wish we have more time, but like, I think today we have a lot of like fruitful like conversation that adding a lot of value to the all the participants. And thanks a lot the two guest speaker with your time joining like the Friday night, Friday evening to share with us a lot of like a very like wonderful sharing. And if this year the challenge of Unilever Future Leaders League is about like close up, I would like to invite Sonia to join another event with us to inspire with the student about the close up brands. I really love as well because Sonia is prefers like my global partner when we work in for like close up Vietnam, and Miss Ling is a very close friend with me from university until now. She also like gone through a lot of experience from the marketing, sales to research. And if like the next event we are able to invite Miss Ling and Miss Sonia to join as well, and I really hope to have that. So thanks a lot for joining today. I hope that we have a wonderful time together, and thanks all the participants to spend your like more than 90 minutes to join today. Have a good weekend and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Come on.
Bye. 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 Thanks a lot.